Hello everyone. I just want to wish you a very Merry Christmas today and obviously a Happy New Year. This will be the last video uploaded prior to Mannequin of the Month on 1st of January. And the reason for that is obviously we're now in our new house, so we are hosting this year for Christmas, which will be very nice. And just from a point of view of time and so forth, it's not going to be really possible to keep up with the YouTube channel over the next few days. But as I say, I will be back on the 1st of January with Mannequin of the Month. In this video, again, with having moved into the house, I now have a display cabinet set up with some various small kit and so forth in it. And I was just looking at it the other day and thought, you know, that might make a nice topic for a video. It's a little bit more extensive than the previous videos looking at cabinet contents. It's a much bigger display cabinet. So without further ado, we're going to have a look at that. We'll have a look at the contents of the display cabinet as I currently have them set up. So I am filming this freehand because it seems a little bit more of a dynamic way of filming it and able to move around and look at the various items a little more easily. Hopefully it's not too shaky. We'll see how we get on. Hopefully it's tolerable anyway. So we'll start over in the left hand corner here. You can see we have, first of all, on the far left here, some Great War items. We have 3 different bits of mail. We've got an active service envelope there. We have an active service postcard. Moving a little closer here, you can see here. And then we have a handwritten active service postcard beneath the printed one at the front there. Just some bits of original Great War paperwork, original Great War mail. Behind that we have a box of Golden Dawn cigarettes and a box of Finlay's Red Tip matches. And then behind that still you can see the Canadian pattern aluminium water bottle, which was the subject of a recent video. And to the right of that, with the light shining on the cover there, if I move this up here you can perhaps see a little more clearly, is Soldier's Paybook, and this is a 1918 print of the Soldier's Paybook. I don't as yet have an earlier example of the AB64 Paybook. I would like to pick one up, but this is the type that was introduced towards the end of the Great War, the particular print that was introduced at that point. It's closer to the more familiar Second War example of the AB64. And then moving along, we have a whole host of small kit here. This is all sort of Second War era, 30s onwards, through to the late 40s, probably is a fair sort of time frame for all the stuff we have here. We have a selection of shaving brushes at the back there, you can see, one of which I've talked about previously. Some of these I think I've talked about more generally on the channel in videos looking at small kit. So we have on the left an Indian-made issue shaving brush, and then to the rear, in the middle, we have a cork handled shaving brush, which is a new old stock example, sat on the box it came in. And then to the right of that, we have a 1945 dated issue shaving brush as well. A couple of issue razors in front of that with different dates. Hopefully you can see those clearly enough here. And then we have some razor blades in various packets displayed around there. Gillette standard blades, standard utility, and then Gillette blue blades round on the back at the right there. And then we have a set of tooth soap containers. These are Navy issue, RN issue. 3 different examples there, one of which does have the soap inside. I think it's the red example here. It is. It's going to be difficult to undo this one-handed. You can see there that has the block of tooth soap still inside it in the cellophane wrapper. So that's a point actually. I'll probably leave that with the lid partly off. You're still modifying the display here. I'll leave that with the lid slightly off there, which shows what's inside these. And then at the very front here we have I think this is 1945 dated issue toothbrush, still in the cellophane wrapper with the little leaflet there saying how you should wash this. You shouldn't put it in hot water, shouldn't soak it in hot water so as not to spoil the handle. And then moving on, we have another toothbrush here. This is an original bone handled toothbrush, and the Colgate ribbon dental cream, which is something that was talked about previously in a video looking at toiletry items. And then a couple of safety razors which were also considered. We have a Wardonia safety razor there with spare blades in its Bakelite case, and the Valley Auto Strop, which is again definitely a Second War era razor. Fusilier Payne's small kit, which is a very useful set of photographs of his small kit that were basically tipped out of his equipment and pockets and so forth in Normandy in 1944. For the benefit of the Army Film and Photographic Unit, as I remember. I think it was the AFPU which organised that. I could be wrong. But anyway, very good record of his personal kit, and he has one of these razors. Moving on, we have some more Tobaccania, and we have Erin Moore cigarettes in the centre there, which Erin Moore cigarette packet, which still has the cigarettes in, which is rather nice. And then we have a box of pilot matches on the left there, and then a V for Victory book of matches there on the right hand side. And then we have some ration items here. We have boiled sweet salt and matches at the back there, as you can see, and then the boiled sweets tin in the foreground, part of the compo ration. And then we have a Second War era sterilising kit, water sterilising kit, with the Theo tablets and the sterilising tablets in the little individual glass bottles there. A couple of foot powder tins, Second War era foot powder tins, one in gold and one of the later examples in a brown lacquer with green lettering. And then an original bar of Sunlight soap, finishing off the sort of hygiene items there. So that's this top shelf here, primarily a little bit of Great War stuff on the left here, and then primarily Second War small kit and personal items, a little bit of rations thrown in there as well. Moving down to the next shelf down, we have a sort of national service display. And the idea of this is to tell a little bit of a story. So starting on the left here, we have the enlistment notice for R.E. Shaw. Gives his details and everything there, and that's dated 20th of June 1951. And then we have many of the items associated certainly with basic training for national service. So we've got myriad different forms of polish. We've got metal polish, we've got boot polish, we've got blanco, we have rolled laces, obviously brushes at the back there as well, both with 50s dates. I picked out two which had particularly clear stamps on them. We do have some hygiene items here as well, a little trial bar of Sunlight soap. We've got shaving cream, a period toothbrush and Colgate toothpaste there, and a shaving brush at the back there, a civilian shaving brush. Shaving brushes weren't issue in the army at this time, I believe, but we do have an issue brush, and this is actually Admiralty marked. I move this in here, it's a little difficult to get the camera in there, but hopefully you can see that has ADMY, and then the date of 1952, you can see there. Moving along, we sort of move more to the active service part of national service, so we've got some Malayan emergency items on display here. We have a Paybook at the back as well there, you can see. We've got the soap tin associated with the 1944 pattern equipment with a bar of general purpose soap in the front there, and you can actually see that the packet, the ration packet that came in the compo, which included this to the right of it there. We have the J-pack in the foreground here, the jungle first aid kit, the British jungle first aid kit, and then a shaving stroke signal mirror, which is again part of the late war jungle equipment. At the back there we also have a little tin, this would have, just tipped this forward, you can see there solid fuel cooker tin that would have contained the solid fuel cooker and the fuel tablets for it as well. And then further to the right we have a player's cigarette tin. These were fairly commonly used in the jungle as a map case. Certainly there are reports of men doing that to keep maps dry. They fold up neatly in there and it does stop them spoiling in the humid conditions, the damp and humid conditions of the jungle. And then we have a Tommy cooker, very common to see. Again, there's period footage showing these in use. We have a 1944 pattern mug on top of that. And then another sterilising outfit, this being a late war or post-war, probably a 50s example. And then we have insect repellent there. And finally, the same chap, Shaw RE, his discharge papers. So it's sort of a story of national service on the middle shelf there, running through from basic training to active deployment. That's the idea of it anyway, obviously telling that story through small kit. And finally, on the bottom shelf here, we move on to the 1960s. Now, we have here sort of a relatively Spartan display of small kit. We don't have as much sort of 60s specific kit, but we have at the back there, you can just see a certificate of service, regular army certificate of service, and post office savings bank book there from the 60s. As I say, this is my grandfather's certificate of service. He was a warrant officer in the Royal Army Education Corps, and this sort of, again, is supposed to carry on the story from the shelf above, really, in that the British Army, of course, in the 60s was returning to a regular professional army. Conscription came to an end, national service came to an end, so in the 60s it was very much a transition back to a volunteer-only force. And we have various other bits of small kit here. Obviously we have at the back there a couple of ration tins. These are later issue ration tins, but essentially the same as those which were issued in the 60s and had been issued before as well. And then we have a sterilising outfit there, which actually has 60s dates on the bottles. I don't know if I can tuck the camera in here with the light on it. Getting a lot of reflection there, but you can see the packing date is 7/66 for the two bottles there. Hopefully you can see that. And then we have a couple of period razors, some razor blades, obviously the ubiquitous can opener or tin opener,
bar of Lifebuoy soap. We have foot and body powder tin in the back there as well, and then we have some McLean's toothpaste and a toothbrush, and I think we mentioned the Colgate brushless shaving cream there as well. Moving along, we then move into a small display of kit relating to Australia's involvement in the Vietnam War, or at least that's some of the kit that I would include on the shelves I made, which I talked about in a previous video. You can see at the back there we have the Australian Military Forces pocketbook, and we moved the foot powder tin out of the way here. You can see this relates specifically to Vietnam, South Vietnam. But in front of that we have the foot powder tin here. Behind it we have a couple of paperbacks. Obviously we have Casino Royale there and the Fall of Singapore, and just a couple of period paperbacks to sort of set the display off. We have a folding hexamin stove to the left of frame here. In the centre we have a packet of Edinburgh Cigarettes. These were definitely around at the time and were a brand that were available in Australia. There are period adverts for these on YouTube, which makes it rather helpful in identifying them and knowing what was around and popular at the time. We have a box of matches as well from the Red Lips bar in Hong Kong, where Australian servicemen could conceivably have visited on R&R. And we have a US government issued pen, which certainly turned up everywhere, and I'm fairly certain these would have ended up in Australian hands as well, but just included that there. A very kind gift along with the pen was this Kodak Instamatic 104, which was a very, very common accessory for troops fighting in Vietnam, both US and Australian, and it sort of shows the consumer products that were beginning to appear at the time and were often seen in theatre. And finally, something which Australian troops would certainly have not liked to do without, a can of beer, an original period, very late 60s, early 70s Victoria Bitter can there. You can see this is actually, the ring pull is still intact. This is an early ring pull can. It was actually opened by making a hole in the bottom and the contents were drained out, possibly so that the can could be kept, I don't know. You do find that for a time when ring pull cans were introduced, though this doesn't appear to have been opened with the church key, the can opener that existed for beer cans and drinks cans at the time. It's just had a hole made in the bottom. You do find ring pull cans that have been opened in the old way by making a hole in the can. So there it is. That is the display cabinet as it is at the moment. I don't think I can get the full thing in shot, but we can get a sort of overview of it here. As I say, this will no doubt change over time. I'll probably end up rotating what's in here, but for the minute I'm very pleased with this, and it's very nice to have a cabinet where I can put on a display like this as opposed to the rather restricted one I had at the flat previously. So hopefully you found it interesting having a look at that. Just pan up again there, and there we are. That's the contents of the display cabinet as I have them at the moment. So there we are. I do hope you've enjoyed looking at that. It certainly helped to make this place feel like a home, being able to get bits and pieces on display. It's very nice to have a bigger display cabinet where I can display a lot more of the small kit and probably other bits and pieces going forward as well when I change the display that's in there. That may well be the topic of a future video. As I say, I do hope you found this interesting, and obviously once again a very Merry Christmas to everyone and a very Happy New Year to all of you as well. And as I say, I will see you on the 1st of January with the Mannequin of the Month, whatever that might be. If you enjoy these uploads and you'd like to keep up with videos such as Mannequin of the Month, please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you would like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And as ever, a huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those two methods. Thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below. And if you'd like to get in touch but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address down there as well. That's everything for this video. So until next time, bye for now.